communication link between the music director and the students, parents, administration, and community is a critical piece to becoming a successful music teacher. In music, with all of the extra things we do, like performances and fundraisers and trips, instrument rental, uniforms, and more, communication becomes even more important. And having a proactive stance on your communication strategy is vital to having an organized program and success in the classroom. My name is Charles Laux, and I am the orchestra director at Alpharetta High School in Alpharetta, Georgia, just outside Atlanta. I recently finished my 5th year there and my 25th year in music education. At Alpharetta, I have 5 separate ability-based orchestra classes, each one being its own distinct performing ensemble. In addition, my top ensemble, the chamber orchestra, combines with my symphony strings class to perform as a full orchestra. The orchestra program at Alpharetta began in 2004 when the school opened, and since then, the orchestra has performed at Carnegie Hall and 3 times at the Midwest Clinic. I love my school so much. We have a great diversity of students, those who end up graduating and auditioning for some of the top music conservatories, all the way down to students who struggle with the basic fundamentals of string playing and everything in between. So I want to take you on this journey through some of the things that I'm doing to communicate with my audience, I'm going to call them, that's students, parents, administration, community, and how that's worked for me and some of the strategies I've been using. So hopefully you'll enjoy and get to take some of these with you if you're not already doing them. First, the first thing that I've been doing since 1999, believe it or not, is a website for my program. And when I first started my website, the internet was out, but it wasn't as robust as it is now. It wasn't as commonplace. So it was kind of a weird thing to have a website back in 1999. But I used it to start organizing that information, distributing my information to my students and parents, and just having a record of what we were doing. So having that blog with the most recent news and everything on it was really, really important. So I was kind of one of the forerunners of the practice when the web was still new to a lot of people. And the .com was just starting to boom. My current website is alpharettaorchestra.org. It contains lots of information. Most importantly, our calendar of events, pages for each orchestra, kind of with a list of customized a list of their events, links to resources, and more. In addition, there's information about our program and school, and links to our social media accounts, which I'll talk more about later, links for our parents and our booster organization. So lots of really, really great information on the website. There are so many ways to create a website, and great building tools out there that don't require a lot of coding knowledge or any coding knowledge. Very, very simplistic. It has come a long way. Many are free or very inexpensive. For my website, I use WordPress that's installed on my own server space that I share with my personal website and a couple other websites that I run for some different organizations. But WordPress.com will host your website for free. Some other examples of free and inexpensive website hosts are Google Sites, which the new version has come very, very, very far. Wix, and also Weebly. And I'll show you a couple screenshots here of both Wix and Weebly. Again, lots of beautiful websites can be made for free or inexpensive. One of the things I would highly recommend every director do is to purchase a custom domain name, like your band or orchestra.org. We use .org to show that the organization is a nonprofit. .com usually stands for a commercial website. So it's good if you can to use .org just to show that you are, a nonprofit organization or a school. You can register a domain name for any of those sites. Generally, they run between $12 and $20 a year, so it's not too expensive, but it does give your program that identity of, this is our website, this is where we are. If you have a really long domain name or something that's slash this and slash that in the URL, it's going to kind of be confusing. So definitely recommend having that domain name. Wherever you purchase your domain, you can easily point that domain to your website, regardless of where you're hosting it. One of the things I've added to my website when I started at Alpharetta was the ability to accept payments with credit cards via PayPal. This functionality will vary depending on which web host platform you are using. Some of them may have that already built in, or it may be a paid service. We take payments, and again, the form is on my website, and as soon as they click submit to the form, it takes them to PayPal to pay the amount that they've entered, whether it be for uniforms or our student participation fee, lots of different things we can take payments for. It's almost completely eliminated students turning in checks or cash, which, is just a lot more time to process. Now, you do pay a small fee for each transaction, but the time saved is definitely worth it. We have a little part at the end of our form that will allow parents to add additional donation amounts to help offset the cost of the transaction and just make donations for whatever reason. And you'd be surprised if you put that on your web form, how many donations you actually get, whether it's a few dollars or $50 or whatever it might be. You'd be surprised that you get additional donations. But this makes everything very simple for my Orchestra Booster program and my Booster Treasurer. On WordPress, I'm using a special plugin called Ninja Forms, and the ability to take the payments is a paid add-on. I believe the plugin is about $50 a year for that functionality, but again, it's well worth the cost considering the time it saves us. I am able to customize the items again on there that need to be paid for and how much they are, and so it's very, very simple to use, and it's been really great for us. Next, on the website, I integrate Google Calendar into our website. So it's fantastic because I'm able to not only log into Google Calendars, add dates and events and things like that, but I can also use my local calendar. Whatever you're using should be able to synchronize with Google Calendar, so I can add them directly from my desktop calendar. In this case, I'm using iCal on the Mac, and I'm able to very simply add dates, and then they show up on a web calendar. So that synchronization piece for me is really important. Then I'm able to take the calendar's embed code from Google and embed that right into my website. So it shows up right in there, and as soon as I make a change, it's instantly changed on my website. I don't have to go into the website to make any changes. It's just there. So definitely set it and forget it is a really nice thing to integrate Google Calendars if that's the option that you're thinking about for your events calendar. Next on my list is something that I use to communicate via email, and I'm using a website called MailChimp. MailChimp is a website that will collect a list of people for you and allow you to send out information. And so for me, email is usually the method that most of my parents will read. And we'll talk about some ways that I'm reaching my students a little bit more. But I send it out to them as well. So I use MailChimp. It's a free tool. It has some paid premium options if you wish to have those. But for most programs, you're going to be able to get away with the free version. For what I'm doing, it's a very, very powerful tool. Some of the best features are the ability to have your audience sign up to be on your email list via a web form that I embed into my the sidebar of my website. You can also create custom email templates, and you can also show analytics of after you send a message, it will show you how many people have opened it, what links got clicked on, and how many times. Very thorough analytics that you can look at, and this will help you tailor your future messages to your audience and see who you're reaching and maybe who you're not. It will also show you which messages bounce and all kinds of great information. So definitely check that out. Each message after you send it is also put into a static web page, and a URL is provided. So I can take that URL from MailChimp after I send out an email message. It'll give me a static URL for that email with the formatting and everything how I've done it, and I can embed that into my Remind text messages, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or on your course management system if you're using Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom or whatever you're using. You can embed that link, and then your students will be able to get their information that way. Last, I like MailChimp for my email because I can import lists of email addresses or my rosters when I get them, and then I can also manage those. So the audience, whoever you're sending your messages to, has the ability to manage your subscription preferences by opting out or changing their email or whatever they need to do. So there's a lot of flexibility with MailChimp. When I collect information from my students, I do ask for their graduation year. So at the end of the year, like I'm about to do for this year, I will take all of my 2021 graduates and put them in a separate email list that I'm going to call my alumni list, and I can communicate with my alumni that way. And I like to try to keep in touch with them to find out what they're doing and just to invite them back to our events. So it's nice to have that alumni email database and a separate list for them once they're graduated. One caution with MailChimp, if the students are using a district-provided email address, ours, for instance, will not allow receiving of emails from the outside of our school domain. So when I have students signing up to be on our MailChimp list, I do ask them to put in a personal email and not the school email. So that's something you have to watch out for with MailChimp because it is an external, email source. One of the other things that's very helpful for me in communicating is using QR codes. QR codes are those little scannable codes that you can students and parents can scan with their phones. The QR is short for quick response. These are a great way to direct users to your website, your YouTube channel, social media, a PDF, a program. We had to do a outdoor concert, and I was able to put a list of our seniors in kind of a really nice senior showcase that I had put up on a website to outline all the seniors. So I put up a link to the PDF that we had online. There's lots of things that you can link to. Anything you can link to online, you can put in a QR code. And there are tons of websites that will allow you to create these for free. The website I use most frequently is qrstuff.com. And remember, you really only want to use QR codes for print media. Putting a QR code in an email, a hyperlink is much easier for people to click on. So QR codes are very handy for any print media that you want to direct people to some kind of online source. Again, you can link to anything and check out qrstuff.com. I think a way that most of my students get their information is through our text messaging website called remind.com. If you're not using it, it is a fantastic way to communicate with students. Some parents do sign up as well, but what they know best is text messaging. So I have found that text messages are probably the most impactful way to communicate with my students because they send an actual SMS text message, or if students have the Remind app on their phone, they can get the in-app notifications that go directly to their phone that are very helpful. Using Remind is an accepted form of communication by thousands of teachers, and I think is more reliable and safer than texting directly from your phone. So with Remind, students don't have your phone number. They can send you messages back. It all goes through the app. You can send text blasts out to individual students. You can select as many students, I think up to 20 at a time, or you can send them to your whole class or multiple classes or all your students. So it's a great way to get the information out there. All of the text conversations are saved should you need to reference them later. And it's just a great way to communicate. The final way I communicate with my students is via our district's course management system of choice. They chose to use Microsoft Teams. I am a bigger fan of Google Classroom, but after the spring of 2020, our district decided that Teams would be the method of communicating and distributing information to our students. So we're having to use it for our meetings and for distributing our information. So instead of fighting it, I decided to embrace it and have been able to make it work. But when I post something to my website, or send an email message. I also send it out on Remind. I send it out via Teams. And so there's really no way for students to miss the information I'm putting out there. I want to make sure that they get it one way or another, and I found that that's one way I can do it. I have harnessed the power of video through YouTube to help promote different events, such as our fundraiser, concerts, and socials, and trips, and other special events we might have. I've also been able to use our YouTube channel to help students at home, especially during our digital learning times, putting up tutorials. I can also include concert clips, but the most important way I think I've used our YouTube channel has been through recruiting by putting up student testimonials. Here's a little example of one small short video I did, a little teaser to get students interested in our orchestra program. I actually use our channel throughout the year to, post performance recordings. I do a lot of tutorials. I'll do play-along videos for students to practice at home, kind of flipping that classroom and more. But it's been a great resource for my students, and students from other programs have also used some of the resources I've put out there. Our program does have social media accounts. Again, check with your school, your district to make sure that that's something that you're able to do and allowed to do. Our social media channels include a Facebook page, Instagram, and a Twitter account. And I use kind of all of them to put out most of the same information. We may have a few more things that go out on Instagram, like photos and announcements just for the students. But I have a student leadership team, and I have a few students on that leadership team who are in charge of technology, and part of their duties is social media. So I have students who post to our Instagram account. These are some very responsible students. They post reminders about deadlines and upcoming events, and also some fun photos from class. I follow the page closely, and I make sure to monitor everything that's been posted. And I also meet with these students before the school year begins to make sure that they understand the do's and don'ts and set the expectations for the Instagram account. So far, so good. Knock on wood. Everything has been really positive. The final thing that we've started doing for communication is this spring we started a podcast. It's been a little rough getting started, but we're going to be putting forth the podcast a lot more this coming fall. But the podcast will help motivate students and just get information out there and just give them, again, it's kind of a sense of identity. It's really important to have that. The podcast is, just like I said, in its infancy of development, and due to COVID, it's been kind of difficult to get students on board, but I know that once we get students back face-to-face in the fall, this is going to be something that's really going to take off, and it's going to be kind of my focus for the 21-22 school year. So even though I have a lot of communication protocols in place and tools that I use, I'm still looking for the latest and greatest, the next big thing that will hopefully be impactful. A lot of my parents and other teachers ask, how do I collect all this information for my students or get students to sign up for the email list or the Remind? At the beginning of the year, I put together an assignment that I call the Oh Boy assignment. The Oh Boy stands for Orchestra Beginning of the Year. It's a multi-step assignment that asks students to complete a series of tasks like signing up for the email list, signing up for the Remind class, submitting their information with their address, phone number, parent names, parent phone numbers, etc. So I have all that information. I usually use a Google form for that. And then I'm able to take that list and import it into MailChimp. So I have everybody's information in there. Again, if they don't sign up for the email list, I can always add them. The great thing about MailChimp too is if you add a duplicate email, it will recognize that and ask you what you want to do. So it's, again, powerful tool. But several of these steps for the Oh Boy assignment include all the things I mentioned. They also have to pay their fees. And then I have all that important data for the rest of the year. So those are some of the ways that I've been communicating with my parents, and hopefully that you'll be able to use some of these ideas. Definitely reach out to me if you have any questions. My name again is Charles Laux. My email is my last name, Laux, and the letter C, at fultonschools.org. Thanks for watching.